In the world of Angel Has Fallen, the US government straight up acknowledges that Russia meddled in a US presidential election to get Morgan Freeman elected. Now, be honest, when they released two competing Die Hard in the White House movies back in 2013, you never for 1 second thought there was a trilogy in it. God, I love movies. Straight off the bat, how you view this series is down almost entirely to your personal sense of enjoyment in the gleefully R-rated cinema that exists on the sort of tail end of 80s Arnie and Stallone actioners, and me personally, I'd love that. Bring it me by the bucket load, but for this century, that now seems to have gone sort of high-end with Keanu Reeves, family-friendly with The Rock, and, well, my favorite, the down-and-dirty shoot-em-ups with physically invincible yet emotionally vulnerable lone warrior types. Basically what Jason Statham and Gerard Butler are good at. Butler doing Die Hard in the White House? Idiotic, by the numbers, but viscerally fun. Butler doing Die Hard in London? Hilariously idiotic, by the numbers, viscerally roller coaster. Destined to become a staple of bad movie night. This one, somehow the most idiotic one yet, needlessly convoluted and a lot less fun. There are moments of carnage-fueled hilarity, absolutely, but there are noticeably fewer of them here than there were in Olympus or London. Thing is, when you think back on them talking this up as if it were Logan, it really does start to confirm that that clearly is what they think this is for them, rather than just a better directed version of Taken 3, which it totally is. Our return to the world of Mike Banning this time has the world's greatest Secret Service agent framed for an assassination attempt on the president. Who's Morgan Freeman now? I tell you, that guy is just Frank Underwooding his way up through this administration. So it's no longer Die Hard in, this one's just The Fugitive. Or specifically the Taken 3 riff on that. Look, it's a lot like Taken 3, you just can't get past that. Just be thankful that this one does not end with a moment as truly idiotic as the revelation that murderers don't buy bagels. As far as any single element of this goes though, it's all built, shot, designed, performed, and engineered to the exact caliber of the cinematic gauge that you've either seen them demonstrate twice before now, or just see plain as day in literally any piece of the way too spoilerific pre-release marketing. So yeah, Danny Houston's about as enjoyable as Danny Houston always is playing a villain. Morgan Freeman's there. Cool. Speaking of monologues, go figure. Nice. It's like that the whole time. You like a Gerard Butler actioner? Fill your boots. Perfectly fine. You've seen it all before. It's decent fun. Just switch off for a couple hours. Something I always forget is that the first of these was directed by Antoine Fuqua, who gave us Training Day and as such really never needs to work again, but they followed him up for the second one with Babak Najafi, who was pretty lively but not the greatest director. This one though has something of a solid balance going on behind the camera, so Rick Romanoir's like another of that emerging crop of stuntmen and action choreographers churning out some pretty good stuff like John Wick, and John Wick 2, and John Wick 3. Look, the potential is there. We all had hopes for Atomic Blonde. War, though, really gives it some energy and stylizes the action set pieces on a level sort of on par with the leap between Bad Boys and Bad Boys 2, and somehow still manages to ensure that none of what you're watching makes any sense. You just invested in it enough because it at least feels a little theatrical about it, you know? On the narrative front, there's really little you can say to defend Angel Has Fallen, to be honest. The first two were heightened lunacy, but at least felt like they took place on the same Earth we occupy. This one goes nuts at times. It's wildly contradictory, like Banning's supposed to be the best person who's ever lived, but the same people who think that also genuinely believe he's turned on them on a dime. Danny Houston's got like two opening scenes that exist to just needlessly complicate his plan, and Nick Nolte apparently collects benefit payments in a forest. This series genuinely leaps into new terrain in like FEMA-level natural disasters being just casual offshoots, you know, like that, which you'd honestly enjoy if this were anywhere near as gleeful as the previous two, and Butler was all head stabby, you know, and fun. This one's all gloomy and fixated on his headaches. To be honest, that fun went a long way with me. Did not enjoy this as much. Objectively speaking, every movie in this trilogy is a 2-star movie, so 2 stars. As a fan of the Fallen series though, or whatever we're calling it, I liked it, but it's my least fave. That'll always be London Has Fallen, Olympus second, third one last. It's basically like a reverse Iron Man trilogy. Meanwhile, another one that's kind of by the numbers, a little seen all before this week, is Crawl. This is the lady versus alligator one you'll have seen the marketing for. Basically, it's a college swimmer, because of course she is, and her dad stuck in a flooded basement with murderous alligators during a hurricane. And I mean like evil man-hunting predator alligators, you know, that kind. It's pretty suspenseful. Alexandre Ayer, he directed this, dude did the Hills Have Eyes remake, Piranha 3D, knows how to make a decent horror flick. I didn't engage with this quite as much as I did, for instance, The Shallows a few years ago. The action here just isn't particularly too inventive. I didn't care about or get as interested by any of the characters themselves as I'd have liked. Kaya Scodelario and Barry Pepper, they're both pretty good, but they're good in the physically surviving this kind of performance, less so the stopping for character development, because it's all just too thin. Two of them here can't manage what required exactly one Blake Lively last time. It's a novel concept, definitely, the performances are solid, but there's a lot here that's just been done to death. Absolutely maybe want to revisit Lake Placid, that's totally going on the queue, but this is just worn stuff, you know, there's some pretty lackluster visual effects at times, perfectly fine little creature feature otherwise, but it's just below midline of the genre for me, and it's still kind of ropey on its own merits. 2 stars for me, could have done with more teeth. Okay, last one. Scary Stories to Tell in the Dark. So this is a feature adaptation of the collection of young adult horror books from the 80s and 90s in which Alvin Schwartz effectively rounded up all the old public domain and campfire stories, along with a few urban legends, and effectively solidified the branding and iconography of them. Kind of like the Ultimates universe, but for scary stories, and before the Goosebumps series had come along and sort of steal its thunder with tweens. The feature here goes a similar route to the Goosebumps movie, though, in rather than just adapting a single story as a self-contained film, it instead adds a layer of metatext to utilize a different recognizable horror imagery, and here it's via a group of 4 teens discovering the handwritten storybook of a crazed woman murdered by her town-founding family centuries earlier. That book, it turns out, literally writes itself, and any murder it writes, well, comes to pass, so hands up who knows who it wants to kill next. So much like the band Busted, it's pretty fun for its first 2/3. The young leads are all quite likable, they have engaging enough chemistry, and the story does a pretty labored way of getting to the sort of basic setup, but when it gets there, it does deliver on some decent enough scares, a couple of enjoyably creepy moments. It's in that 3rd act, though, it all goes to hell, man. It seems to just slam on the brakes, slow itself way too slow to keep any real momentum going, and it's so withdrawing after those opening 2 acts. It really does coast to the end on as much of that earned goodwill as it can. Burns it out entirely by the end, but hey, that first hour and 10 was good fun. There's some good visuals, and Trollhunter director Andre Overdahl's on point as ever. I didn't really dig The Autopsy of Jane Doe, but it looked and felt the biz. This, little derivative, but it ticks the boxes. It's strange-ish things, will give you it bumps. Cool little period setting on the run-up to the Nixon election in '68, and the horror designs are, genuinely horrifying. There are some actual scary stories to tell here. It just massively jumps the shark with an eventual stab at sequelizing itself, and it's jarring on about the Independence Day resurgence kind of level, if we're being honest, but there are goofy fun times you get before the dull ones, and those are plentiful enough to at least let you take a couple positives away with you, though. 2 stars on balance, it just runs out of steam for the finale. It's a shame, I really liked it until then. Hey, thanks for watching. Don't forget to like, share, subscribe, rate, and review.